Doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Bava Metzia Daf Tzadi and we're starting at the open of the Gemara in the middle of Tzadi Zayin Amud Beis. We learned the Mishnah about a whole host of cases in regards to Shoel, if you were Shoel for Chatzi Yom and Socher for Chatzi Yom, because only one of those is Chayiv and Ones. So, how would all of that work out? So that was what the Mishnah was discussing, and the Gemara opens with an inference. The Gemara says Shamas Minei. We can learn something from our Mishnah that that if one person makes a claim that there's money to be owed and the other person says Eini Yodea, so that's one claim is bari. The first claim is you owe me money. The second claim is Eini Yodea. That's a shema. So bari v'shema, we would say that bari is adif and therefore you'd be chayiv. Well, if that's true, that's the din of our Mishnah. That's what Rashi wrote on the third line of this page. L'shalim, why should you pay? Because the bari v'shema bari adif is that when we have two people in Bezdin, one person's claim is a vadai, the other person's claim is I don't know. So the claims are not equal claims. One is better than the other. Bari v'shema bari adif. So the Gemara says that's all fine and good in our Mishnah, but it poses a little bit of an issue for Rav Nachman. Lema tehave tiyufta de Rav Nachman. Perhaps this is a rejection of the Shita of Rav Nachman. And the Gemara says as follows. The Itmar. Manali bi'archa v'hala ma'ini yodea. Yes, Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda Amrei Chayev. That aligns with our Mishnah, where we have Bari B'Shema Bari Adif, and therefore in our Mishnah, when one person makes a claim of Manali bi'archa and the other person makes a claim of Eini Yodea, that's Chayev, that aligns perfectly. But look at what Rav Nachman says. Rav Nachman v'Rav Yochanan Amrei, they say Pater. So therefore our Mishnah, which says Bari V'Shema Bari Adif, seems to be a stira to the sheet of Rav Nachman. So the Gemara says, don't worry, we're two lines from the bottom of Tzadi Zayin Amud Beis. Keda Amar Rav Nachman kegon sheyesh esek shavua beinehem. Rav Nachman, in that case, not our case, was talking about where there's an asek shavua. An asek shavua, if you take a look at Rashi, what's an asek shavua? Rashi says that it is shemischayev lo shavua b'ta'anaso, but v'hu enu yachol lishavad ha'enu yodea karma. You're not allowed to make a shvua after you say the words "I don't know." Right? It's not even rational. If you say "I don't know" what the truth is, then what are you making a shvua about? That's setting yourself up for failure. Halacha does not allow you to make a shvua when your first opening remarks are "I don't know." So therefore, an asik shvua is really you should have been chayiv a shvua, but you can't make the shvua. In that case, that's where Rav Nachman would say that you're patur. And achanami kigon sheish asik shvua b'neihem. And heichidami asik shvua. What is this asik shvua that we're talking about? That is answered by Rava. Kid the Rava, and that brings us to the top of Tzadi Chesed Aleph. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihye b'dvaro. The Omar Rava. What does Rava explain about an asik shvua? Well, here's a case. Manli biyadcha. One person says, you owe me $100. V'hala omer, the other guy says, ein lecha biyadi ela chamishin. Only $50 is owed. V'hasha'ar eini yodea. So the responding claim is dual. The first part is, I don't owe you 100, I owe you 50. The second part is, I don't know about the other 50, which is, again, a difficult case to start with, but that's the case. And mitoch she'enu yachol lishava mishali. Then therefore, he's going to have to pay. So that's what is going on in our Mishnah, and that's what the Gemara says. And how does this all fit into our Mishnah? Because our Mishnah doesn't quite have the case like this, right? This case of Rava was manali biyadcha from the one side. The responding person said, ein lecha biyadi ela chamishim. There was a kfira there. He said, I don't owe 50. And then v'ashar eini yodea, I don't know about the other 50. So says the Gemara, in such a case, you'd be mishalim. Now, how does that apply to our Mishnah? The Gemara makes a significant edit to our Mishnah as follows. Third line of Tzadi Chesed Aleph. Mishkachas la reisha bebeis. What we're talking about is when the first case of our Mishnah is talking about two, and we'll see what this means in a moment, the Seifa begimel. And the second case is talking about three. So let's see what this means. Reisha bebeis. What does it mean that in the Reisha that there's two? The Gemara says, the Amar lei, beis paros masarti lach. I gave you 2 paros. Pal gediyoma b'she'ela. Half of the day is supposed to be for she'ela. Upal gediyoma b'schirus. and half the day was supposed to be a rental. Inami, another iteration of the same, is Chad Yoma b'She'ela. One day is for She'ela of the two animals. V'Chad Yoma b'Schirus, and the second day is going to be for rental. Umesu, Tarvaihu b'Idan She'ela, and both of them died during the time of the She'ela. So there, the Gemara says that the owner wants his stuff back. V'Amar Le Shaul, the borrower says, Chada in b'Idan She'ela Mesa. I agree with you, says the Gemara, and this is how the Gemara teaches the Reisha of our Mishnah, which is at the bottom of Tzadi Vav Amud Aleph, is that what we're talking about is where the person responds and says, I agree that one of the animals died. V'idach lo yadana I b'idan she'ela mesa v'idan schirus mesa. And the second animal, I don't know when the animal died. This is the Eini Odea, which, because remember, once you say Eini Odea, you can no longer make a Shavua, and that's our Mishnah, that we must be talking about an Asek Shavua. That's why Rav Nachman says that he touches our Mishnah as being a case of Asek Shvua, and because Eino Yachol Shava, because he claimed Eini Yodea. So therefore, our Mishnah is Chayiv, because what's he supposed to do? He's not allowed to make a Shvua. The Seifa, says the Gemara, the next case of our Mishnah, as it wraps to the top of Tzadi Zayin and Beis, is Begimel. Is actually talking about an ukimta where there are three animals. To Amar Le, Gimel Paros Nasati Lach. The Mashil, the lender, says, I've given you three animals. Beis b'she'ela v'achas b'schirus. And the way that I gave you these three animals is that two of them were loans and one of them was rented. Umesu hani tarte the she'ela. And the two that died were borrowed. They were on the she'ela. Amar Le Shoel, the borrower says, you're correct. Chada de she'ela mesa. One of them did die, and one of the animals that I borrowed died. Idach lo yadana ide she'ela mesa udekaima de schirusi. Ide schirus mesa v'hadekaima de she'ela. I don't know which one died. The second one, we know one of them was she'ela, but of the three animals, there were two she'elas and one schirus. He agreed that one of the she'ela, one of the borrowed animal has died. What's left? One borrowed, one rented. He's just not sure which one this is. When we talk, so this also is how Rav Nachman would understand our Gemara. Our Mishnah is to say it's talking about a case of Asek Shvua. So again, no steer to Rav Nachman. Now there's a unique din halfway down on Tzadi Chesed Aleph. What we've learned so far is how many of the Amoraim understand our Mishnah. However, Rami Bar Chama had a different din. Amar Daled Shomrim Tzrichin Kfira b'Miktsas v'Hoda b'Miktsas. The only way, says the Gemara, that the Daled Shomrim would ever need to make a Shvua is in a very unique case, which is Kfira b'Miktsas v'Hoda b'Miktsas. We need there to be a Kfira on part of the claim against you, and we need there to be an admittance of part of the claim against you. A very limited din of Rami Bar Chama that we can't always make a shvua. We need both kfira and hoda. So how do we then retool our Mishnah to understand it? The Gemara says, don't worry about it. I'll give you an explanation. Mishkachas la reisha begimel v'seifa b'dalet. We bump everything up one. The reason why we're bumping everything up one, the previous answer was that the ratio was 3, and the ratio was 2, and the seifa was 3. But according to Rami Bar Chama, where kfira is part of the equation in order to make a shvua, we therefore needed to add another animal to be part of the kfira. So therefore, let's go through these two different iterations. We're right now 2/3 of the way down toward the bottom of Tzadi Chesed Aleph. Reisha begimel. The opening case of our Mishnah is talking about a rental or borrowing of 3 animals. The Amar Le Gimel Paros Nasati Lach. I gave you 3 animals. Palge de Yoma b'She'ela uPalge de Yoma b'Schirus. Half of each day is considered to be borrowed. Half of each day is considered to be rented. Inami, or another version, would be Chad Yoma b'She'ela v'Chad Yoma b'Schirus. Each day they would alternate. One day was a borrowing day, one day was a schirus day. Umesu Gimel Kulhu be'idan She'ela. And all 3 animals died. The 3 animals that died, they died on the clock when the animals were borrowed. Now, what was the response of the Shoel? The Amar Le Shoel, remember, we're in the Rami Bar Chama camp. We should be expecting that the only way to make a shvua is with kfira. So it says the Gemara, Amar Le Shoel. The Shoel says, Chada lo hayu dvar me'olam. One thing you said was 100% not true. The Chada the second thing I agree with you is that be'idan she'ela mesa, one animal did die. And it was a borrowed animal. V'idach lo yadana, the third animal I don't know. Ibe'idan she'ela mesa, v'ibe'idan schirus mesa. He doesn't know what the animal is. So he is kofar on one of the animals. He says, no, not 3 animals died. One of the animals that you said died is still alive. Betsy's walking around and grazing. She's alive and well. The other 2 animals did die. One of them was a she'ela, and the third one he didn't know. Because he said Eini Yodea Mishalim. He's not able to make a shvua because he said Eini Yodea. But here we do see that there's a kfira in this case as well. And Seifa B'Daled, the next case of the Mishnah, within the camp of Rami Bar Chama, that the only way that the Daled Shomrim ever make a shvua is when there's kfira and hodab mixas. So it says the Gemara, the Amar Le, what's the case? 2 lines from the bottom. Daled Paros Nasati Lach. The Mashil says, I gave you 4 cows. Gimel b'she'ela, chada b'schirus. 3 of them were given to you as a she'ela, as a loan, and 1 of them was given to you as a rental. Umitoch hanach gimel de she'ela, umesu hanach gimel de she'ela, and the 3 that died were all borrowed. So that was the claim of the mashil. The Amar Le Shoel, what does the Shoel say? And we'll be going until the Mishnah, just toward the bottom of this page, and then Amir Hashem tomorrow night we'll learn a blot and a half. Chada lahadam. What does this phrase mean? So this is exactly the phrase that we said on the previous page. Lo hayu dvar me'olam. Chada lahadam. I think this is the first time in Shas we've seen this phraseology.
You'll see it.
Huh?
You'll see it more.
You'll see it more, yeah. But I've never learned this deep into the Bavas. Shouldn't say that. I learned Baba Basra a little bit. But not this part. So lahadam, lo hayu dvar me'olam. I disagree with you. I'm pushing back. That's my kfira. I'm disagreeing with you. The second animal, I agree, died, and that was a barren animal. I don't know which one died. So that's how we'd explain our Mishnah according to Rami Bar Chama, that there's also cases of kfira as well. Just to review briefly, we're trying to create some kind of ukimta in our Mishnah where it doesn't hurt Rav Nachman. We have gone out of our way to make this work. And we've come up with 2 sets of ukimtas. One set that is not the Rami Bar Chama camp, where kfira is not a requirement for shvua, for a shomer. And the second is the Rami Bar Chama camp, where we do require kfira in order for the Dalet Shomrim to make a shvua. So it's just a very beautiful thing. It really is when you step away from the page for a second, how much effort the Gemara did to retool our Mishnah just so that we're not Soser of Nachman. It's a beautiful zach. But also, it's just beautiful. We didn't say he's wrong. We just said Rav Nachman must have had pshat in the Mishnah, and that is all of the effort of Tzadi Ches Amud Aleph. That brings us to the 2 dots on Tzadi Ches Amud Beis on the 4th line. Ze Omer She'ula v'Ze Omer Schura. Let's say that we have an argument about an animal. You're the mashal on the show. I say you say the animal's borrowed because it's better for you to argue that way, and I say the animal's rented. Here's my receipt. So I'm not really responding to she'ela. It's as if we're like 2 ships passing in the night. We're not even like. It's not like a regular argument like we just saw a minute ago. Like, oh, I gave you 3 animals and they died. Well, I disagree with you. One of them didn't die. One of them did die. Here the guy says schura and the guy says she'ula. Totally different claims. And because of that, the Gemara poses a question. Says the Gemara, ve'amai. Why would you say there's a shvua? After all, masha ta'ano lo hodalo, umasha hodalo lo ta'ano. There's no hoda. Nobody agrees with each other, and we have to have some rules. There has to be a shtickle moda b'mixas. And here there's no hoda at all. That's what Rashi says at the top of the page, 2nd line, Dibur Maskal ve'amai. And on the 2nd line of that Rashi, 3rd line of the page, it says, ve'amai shaba, hare ein kan hoda b'miktas. We had said on the previous page that even according to the lenient shita, not Rami Bar Chama, but in order for the Dalet Shomrim to make a shua, there needs to be hoda b'miktas. But if you say that the animal is she'ula, and I say that the animal is sechura, that's not moda b'miktas. That's head-to-head arguments. It's not, no shua should be made there. So the Gemara says, you're right. You're 100% right. Amar Ula, what's going on over here? Al Yadei Gilgul. The shvua that this person makes that they're right, let's say that he claims that it's schura, and the Mashil says, I want you to make a shvua. He's only making that shvua as a Gilgul shvua. We've had this principle many times in Shas. A Gilgul shvua is that I know I'm not allowed to make shvua X out of thin air. But because I can make shvua Y, I can therefore make shvua X. It's a Gilgul. I'm Megalgel the shvua that I typically would not make due to a shiur that I'm allowed to make. So how does that work over here? I want you to at least make a promise. Fine, you don't have to say that it's schura. Fine. But you do have to promise me that the animal died kedarka. And then, umigu de mishtaba de kedarka mesa, mishtaba nami de schura. It's a ruse. But then you can also make a shvua that the schura mesa, that the animal was a schura. It's a little bit roundabout, but that's how the Gemara comes up with an explanation of our Mishnah. The only way to understand our Mishnah is that when one person's claim is she'ula, that the animal is borrowed, and the other person says, no, the animal's rented, you can't make the shoel make a shvua that it's chirus unless you have another more appropriate shvua to be made first. Therefore, the Gemara says it is a gilgul shvua. That brings us to the next two dots, 10 lines down on Sadi Chesed Beis. The Gemara says, Ze omer eni yodea, v'ze omer eni yodea. If everybody is clueless, no terms and conditions, nobody remembers what in the world is going on. I have your animal in my yard. I have no idea if I borrowed it or if I spent money. There is no paper trail. I'm total chaos. I don't have no records. Ha money. Sumchosi. This is the sheet of Sumchos. We're a quarter of the way down at the two dots on Tzadi Chesed Beis. The famed sheet of Sumchos that to Amar Mamon Hamutal B'Safek Cholken. That whenever you and I have a case of Mamon Hamutal B'Safek, that we're not in agreement with each other, neither of us know what's going on, we are Cholek. This is not Bari B'Shema, and it's not Shema B'Bari. This is Shema B'Shema. It's two people saying we're clueless, we have no idea. And they're both going to have to be Vatranim because nobody really knows what's going on, and then Cholken. The rest of the Gemara for today is question upon question upon question that will end in a teiku. So let's go through all of these questions, and then we'll stop at the Mishnah. A little shorter shiur than usual for this Masechta. Boy Rabbi Abba Bar Mamel Shala Bebailim. Let's say that I borrowed the animal Bebailim, and now we have to just go back to yesterday and the day before's Gemara. Now, when I borrow something from you, and I also borrow you with the para that I borrowed, so then there's a ptur of shvur v'mesa. So the Gemara says, let's say I borrow from you and it's she'ela b'bailim, so I should be pater from shvur v'mesa. But then afterwards, sichara, I turned it into a rental shelo b'bailim, and you weren't involved. Mahu. Mi amrinan she'ela lechuda kaima, uschirus lechuda kaima, that your initial she'ela is no longer valid, and therefore you'd be chayiv in shvur v'mesa. Odil maschirus b'she'ela meshach shaychi, that really there is a continuation of schirus from she'ela, tamachai b'gneva ve'aveda. There is a commonality between shoel and shomer sachar and socher. What that means is that because we started with shoel and then we changed over the she'ela to a schirus, but the common denominator of both of them is that there's a chiyuv by gneva ve'aveda. So perhaps the heter of something shvur b'mesa, something breaking or the animal dying, still applies over here as well, because there's a connectedness, a commonality between what he started with, which was she'ela b'bailim, and what he continued with, which was sechara. Says the Gemara, got your question, I understand. Third of the way down a little bit more. Im tim solomar schira b'she'ela meshach shaychi. And if you want to say, in fact, that because he started with she'ela, and then he turned his she'ela into a schirus, and because they're both chayiv in gneva ve'aveda, therefore he's still pater by shvura umesa, because they're connected. So then what about this case? Schara b'bailim, let's reverse it. Let's say that I first rented the animal from you, and then afterwards, shala shelo b'bailim mahu. What would we say? Would we say she'ela b'schirus vaday lo shaycha, that a she'ela is different than schirus, and they really can't be compared because a shoel has a higher level of shmira? Odilma kevan de shaycha b'mitzas kiman de shaycha b'kuladami. Or maybe we'll use the svar of the Gemara from a line or two ago, that because there's some comparison, some commonality between a shoel and a socher, which is that by geneva ve'aveda, one is chayiv, so perhaps we'd say, and it would be mechudash to say this, that you're still pater, because it's still like bailim. And a little bit more than halfway down, and im tim tzalomar lo amrin and kevan de shaycha b'mixas keman de shaycha b'kuladami, even if you want to say that there's no link between the two, she'ela bebailim, let's say I lent with you, so I should be pater by shvura mesa, uschara shelo bebailim, and then I rented it, and then I went back v'chazer b'shalamahu, and then after the rental, you let me borrow it again. How does that work? Would we say hadar asya la she'ela leduchta? Would we say that you're back to the original she'ela? On the bookends you have she'ela, and in the middle you have schirus. So because on the bookends you have sheila, therefore it's as if you're rekindling the initial sheila, and therefore we would say you're pater by shvura b'meisa. Odilma if sika la schirus beni beni, or perhaps would we say that the fact that it was first a borrow and then a rental and then a borrow, but because the rental's in the middle, it's mafsik and cuts off and separates the first sheila, and therefore you would not be pater in the case of shvura b'meisa. And as well, schira b'bailin. Let's say you start out not with a borrow but with a rental, and then rishala, and then you borrow the chazar v'sachra mai mahu. What would be the case there? Mi amrinan asya la schirus laduchta. Would we say that we started with schirus and ended with schirus, and therefore you'll be chayiv by shvura b'meisa because there's no bailam there? O dilma if sika le she'ela beni beni, or perhaps your schirus is also interrupted, and we would follow the rules of she'ela, and you would be pater. To all of these questions, the Gemara says, take it, we don't know the answer. And we'll stop right here at this new Mishnah toward the bottom of Tzadi Ches and the Beis. And Emir Tashem will pick up tomorrow with a blot and a half of Daf Tzadi Tes. And as well, Daf Kuf Amid Aleph. The Tzadi Tes doesn't look so big, which isn't always an indicator of how difficult it is. But Emir Tashem tomorrow night we'll learn a blot and a half. Shabbos we'll learn a blot and a half. What do we have? When's Tuesday night is Shavuos? Yeah. All right. So we're going to have a shiur that night. I think at midnight. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll keep you all posted. Wishing you all a beautiful night.